Let's talk about the movie that Nathan created himself.
It is. It's a Mad Libs.
Yeah.
It's a Mad Libs kind of movie, and Nathan just filled in all of the blanks.
Like, as soon as this movie got underway, I was like, they're all just, like, I was laughing just at,
Thinking
like,
about us
knowing what
watching
you-
it. Yeah.
I was just thinking
Oh
about
my
you the
God.
entire time.
Uh-huh.
The entire time Nathan as a kid, like, yeah.
Like, in Price's head, it's just like, he can't just, how can they keep being
You
movies like
can't
this?
keep getting away
Like,
with
how
it.
many of these were made?
Yeah.
You give me crap all the time. Used to when I picked anime movies all the time. It's like, you've been doing this the whole
It's like the
time.
Scanner Darkly to this,
Yeah.
and there's so much like everything in between.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, we've watched so many of this movie.
Well, that's not true. We'll get into it. Anyways, hold on.
Well, without the kangaroos.
With-
I've seen
I was about to
really
say,
nice.
I have not seen those blood and honey costumes 25 years too soon.
Oh my god.
Maybe 30 years too soon. Sorry,
That,
working through the burp.
So
That's what it
Pig-
was.
It's in
did
here.
Piglet
Mhm.
look like one of the kangaroos or something in that? Is that
Piglet
what we're
was
saying?
the yeah.
Yeah, Piglet or something.
Hurry
yeah.
up and intro this so we can
was
talk
tough.
about it.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
You didn't say the C, the
No.
CS word.
The C.
The C
anyway.
word.
The C word. Welcome to another whatever episode this
Riveting
is.
episode.
Riveting is the word for it.
Ruben.
A horrific episode of the F Movie Podcast. We're your hosts, Bryce, Dylan, Nathan, and Mason, in not all that order, although it was close.
It was very close. You had me.
I kept you guys on the edge of your seats.
Mm-hmm.
Switched it right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trick. On today's episode, we are talking about what, Nathan?
Tank Girl.
Yeah, holy Birds of Prey, this movie.
We have not done this in a while, but what on earth made you pick this movie? How did
Uh-huh.
you find it? How did you remember it?
I've seen this movie like 3 times.
I believe it.
You lucky dog.
I've
you.
seen parts of this movie, and I promise it wasn't the Brew parts, because I would remember that in my nightmares with it, but I have seen parts of this movie just because it's like comic
this
book.
movie,
Yeah,
this
it is,
movie's
yeah.
a trip. The
Yeah.
comic book sequences in this are so good. I like all the music
They
going
are.
on with it.
They're fun.
It's
Let's talk about the music in a different segment.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
I guess quick synopsis. Tank Girl, it's just the movie version of a comic book series
Yeah.
that is just like oozing with style. The style of the comic books
It does have
is
style.
amazing. Like, it's so just like dripping with like punk detail on
Yeah.
every piece of art. It's great.
This is punk dystopia through and through.
yeah.
Like, this is...
Yeah.
versus the man.
It's literally just like straight up the man, like water and power.
Yeah,
is
the man. Yeah.
yeah.
That was not lost on us, I assure
Yeah.
you.
And it had a very like Mad Max feel too, because there was
Oh,
only
yeah.
like
Yeah.
2
Well, and it
areas.
feels
It's
like
about water.
Australia, which is where Mad Max takes place
Yeah.
as well.
And it's about water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
Bullet
feeling
Town.
we're feeling very familiar in our
Yeah.
roots with
But
this
we're,
movie.
we're way more light-hearted and like
Mhm.
cartoon-esque in
Yes.
the portrayal of this world.
Oh, the bad guys are like Star Wars
Star
troopers.
Troopers.
or whatever.
It's like,
Star
How
Troopers.
they're-
there's a lot of
Yeah.
gunshots. Meanwhile, our main character is like cooking a hot
Cartwheel.
dog.
Yeah.
Cooking.
And doing backflips and slides.
Whatever she wants to do
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
pretty much what the movie lets her do. at
Like
this point with it.
she's basically a superhero in this world,
Mhm.
despite having no superpowers other than just like being very fortuitous in everything that happens.
So-
because it's just yeah.
If modern watchers want a really quick tone check and you happen to be a comic book nerd, this is very Birds of Prey-y or Harley Quinn-y by nature, because Tank Girl is a large influence for Harley Quinn as a character, and you feel it.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing by any stretch of the means, because again, I'm not going to fault something for doing something so good that it influences stuff later. But yeah, there's very much this like girl being meta and almost not too meta, but very there's like it tiptoes the line. a bit.
Not quite Deadpool.
Yeah,
but
we're
getting
not like
quite
full on
close.
breaking fourth wall with
Yeah,
it, but
it never breaks the fourth wall. But
Yeah.
it's definitely like she's quite self-aware of the situations
Yeah.
that she's in.
Yeah. I appreciate her horny energy throughout this film, and I just want that on record.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah. I like a woman who knows what she wants, and it's everybody.
She knows what she wants. She
yeah.
knows how to use what
Yeah.
she's got.
Yeah. There's the whole very early in the film, whenever like they talk about her boyfriend for like all of like 3 minutes that they show him before the reckoning, but like the whole idea that like the security guard kind of comes up and they do like the 2 minute like cut the like nylon scene and like bait that, and then you find out it's just a security guard, but he's been just watching and entertaining the whole thing for like several minutes. It's very, very funny to me, where I'm like, yeah, that's the right move. Yeah.
And then
Right.
she uses that sexuality to like lure,
Yeah.
she does that a lot to like lure
Mhm.
the guys in and then kill them or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Which I'm assuming is part of the comic book strip.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean, that's very on brand from
Mm-hmm.
like especially the strips on that one. I haven't read like all of them, but you hear enough about it.
I was expecting more with the boyfriend though, because like when he was
Yeah.
getting undressed, I was like, okay, that's the boyfriend. He's way too stacked to
Right.
be a random character.
He looked
and,
like he was famous too. Like,
like
I thought he was
Yeah.
going to be around.
I mean, he looked great, so I was like, okay, like
He looked
maybe
like
we'll get
B-tier
more on
famous
him, and then he
in
just
the
gets
90s.
domed like
Yeah.
a couple minutes later.
They had to get him out of the way so that she could have a romance with the Ruse.
Yeah, with the ruse.
God.
Oh, believe me,
Yeah.
that's going to be the whole half of this podcast.
Yeah.
Believe you me.
There's
a lot to
we
jump
can get
in.
to them later, but
You might as well timestamp the ruse on this
Yeah.
video and be like,
Yeah.
and here's where the rest of this review goes. But before we get to the ruse, where all the peace and tranquility existed, the world building on this is actually pretty neat. Like, sure,
Yeah.
it's dystopian, like
Mhm.
typical like corporate dystopia takes over in Mad Max world. Like in that
Mhm.
part, it's we've seen it.
And they're also fearing the Reapers, which is kind of neat. Like
Yes.
they sort of dangle this like, oh, there's basically like these sand creature, like
Mhm.
people that just live in the sand that no one's ever seen them, but they wreak havoc. They eat people, blah blah blah. All these rumors.
Yeah.
And it opens with like one of the water and power guys just like a bloody mess on the ground, and she's like picking through his corpse.
Right.
So
But what I thought was like pretty cool about it though was like the brand of evil that the corporation was with it. You had this like CEO looking guy, but he looks like he was really willing to like back up what he said. And a lot of times you either get smarmy smart, but like not gonna be physically active, or you get like general fuck you up.
That was something I really want to touch on when we first started, because I think the villain intro on this was really good.
Yeah.
It's definitely not on the like kind of like Colonel Hans Landa kind of thing, where it's like they want you to believe the villain, where it's like a believable kind of
Yeah.
person. Like he is mustache twirling, kind of evil, but still
It is comic book evil.
the way that
still.
it's introduced when they're in that like boardroom kind of
yeah.
thing, where like they make the guy step on glass and everything. Like
Yeah.
they do so much world building in that scene,
Mhm.
which is very surprising when it could have just been showing how evil he is. You find out they control everything, that there's this one little spot that they can't get, and this one guy's kind of been dicking around. And you also find, which is one of the things I love the most about this movie, is
the water.
That is one of the most
dehydrator
disturbing
Yes.
fucking things.
Oh, I
have
love
ever
that.
seen.
And the visual of like all the like
Yeah.
fluid like
Yeah.
coming out of his hand
The
and
moisture
stuff.
just disappearing.
It's like
and then him drinking it.
They-
yeah,
drink
the,
it.
the evil drink the guy
Yeah.
afterwards is like peak.
Oh,
Like
it is.
Well, and he caught the attention of the class at that point too.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was like, "I'm not going to cross that man."
Right.
Like,
he
He walks
stepped-
through
he walked,
the- yeah.
he walked through the glass with bare feet too.
himself
Without
unfazed.
flinching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like a good psychopath with charisma as like a villain.
Oh, he does.
I can mess with that. I also would not like to watch that dehydrator thing go off again. It is like gnarly, but I don't know what it was. Something about that thing. I'm like, I would like to not watch that anymore, please. And then
That
they're like,
got you?
yeah, like
I mean, that's not the only time it happens though.
Oh,
it happens like
There's a
3
bunch.
times.
Yeah, like the
There's a-
doctor gets it. He
Yeah.
gets it too. Yeah, like this.
I think though,
The doctor.
talking about
Yeah.
talking about the villain guy.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, the doctor was like, it doesn't
Can't
look
be
good.
fixed,
It's
you're
like,
gonna
oh, okay. So you don't think you can fix me? Well,
Yeah.
you don't need to be
And
here.
the Chinese cyber doctor rolls up and he's like, I can do it for
With
half.
the giant scissors cutting his head off.
By the way, that guy is the voice of Poe's dad in Kung Fu Panda,
Yep.
like the duck or whatever, and he's also the grandpa
And
figure in Everything,
Everywhere,
Everywhere,
All
all
at
at once.
Yeah.
He's
He's a very
he's
prolific
in a
actor.
lot of
He
things.
is.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of things for a
Right.
long time,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this movie, how old is this?
95?
I was gonna say it actually
So,
looks newer than 95. I
Yeah.
fully expected
It looks good.
Yeah,
for its
I was
time.
thinking it
Yeah,
was gonna
for-
look like an 80s
For a 90s
type.
film, yeah, it's definitely ahead of the curve.
They
on
use
things.
real prosthetics.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
it's,
use real-
I can't believe they
prosthetics.
really took that guy's head off and put on a hologram with it.
Crazy.
I want to talk about the doctor scene really quick though, or rather like the scene leading up to it, because I think it's really interesting that they took this character. They've been having Tank Girl in the whole jail cell like reform
Yeah,
program.
so just
for
to kind of like
Go
run
ahead.
through
The
what
narrative,
happens in our
right.
narrative here. Tank Girl's little group of rebels that have been like poaching water, like just basically like pulling it up out of the ground because it's there. But
Right.
Water and Power claims that they control all water.
It's theirs.
Anyway, they get ambushed. Most of them get killed, taken off. She gets put into like a mining camp. Meets this girl that's like a mechanic working on the vehicles there. They
She kind of looked like her. The cute
yeah
girl.
yeah very
That's all
similar.
I could see.
Yeah, very similar. I don't think it's
Yeah.
the same
I don't think it's the
person,
same.
but-
This girl's
not.
way hotter.
Yeah.
That's Rachel Wise, I think, is this girl.
No, Rachel
no,
Weisz
it's
is not
not.
this one.
But yeah, they
She's not
end
that hot.
up escaping
Yeah.
together.
Also not named the name.
And I can't. Like I literally watched it today, but I can't remember. The
Yeah,
order
that's
of
fair. There's a
events
lot that
because
goes on.
he also like they try to escape together. They still get captured,
Yeah.
and then he decides
Takes
to
them to the sand dune.
yeah to like take her to the sand dunes and drop her in to the Reapers to like figure out
Quick soul pit. Yeah.
you know see if she can figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
They get ambushed, butchered. That's why our guy's sitting on the table
Right.
with the doctor. His arm was ripped off. He was just in a bad way.
That's such an interesting decision, though, isn't it? Like, they took the main character, and he gets, or the main villain, rather, and then he gets eviscerated. Like, at first I was like, where did he go whenever everybody got eviscerated? And then it was like, oh, no, he got eviscerated, too. And I'm like, oh!
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like it makes you think like, oh, so the main bad guy's dead?
You're right. Like, I'm like, so what's,
Yeah.
who, are we just fighting the whole corporation at this point? And, like, I thought it was interesting. Like, and it ends up being just in the platform to just make him more, like,
To
Sci-fi.
power
Bionic.
him up.
Yeah.
yeah, you really need to, put a couple extra pounds into the guy.
She had like a spinning, like he had blades all over his
Yeah,
the
hands,
spinning.
and like it just made him look like Thanos, sort of, but
Yeah.
like with gadgets.
This was the worst Infinity Gauntlet I've ever seen. Like, that's...
I kind of like this one.
So...
Yeah, and he just literally like would do this to
Yeah,
people.
like, do you remember the moment with the little girl when he's got her captured and he like swings his arm at like
Yeah.
a solid metal
And it
pillar
just
and
completely goes through
cuts through it?
Yes. A little too cleanly, if I'm being honest with it.
What
yeah.
the heck was the point of that tube?
Oh, the
It's a torture
It's a
tube.
torture tube. No, it's a
It gets
claustrophobic
flies in
one.
it too.
I did want to talk about some of because all right, listen,
It's so good.
You know,
It's a
you
good
talk
seller.
About that tube. My favorite part of that tube is whenever he's like talking to her like down the tube, and it's
Yeah.
got that weird like funhouse mirror
Mirrors
kind of
on it,
reflection to
yeah.
it, and he's like you just see his face all distorted on it, talking down into the tube. I think that's just a good visual.
Yeah.
I think
Which
that
this
was a
this whole thing's littered with visuals like that are just like
that's an example of we're gonna use what we would probably have.
Yeah.
And like, you know what? No one else is doing this.
How
have
do we
this
make
long ass
this?
tube. Let's
Yeah.
make it like a little bit of a claustrophobia issue.
I 100% believe you on that. I think that was like a laying around prop, and they were like, what are some ways that we can make this like a psychological torture thing?
Like, we've got a water suckerer.
Yeah.
We've got a Thanos hand. Let's
We've
get
got
a
the
tube now.
They put her in the freezer for a little bit. Like that
Oh,
was their
yeah.
like
Well,
isolatory
they
thing.
do a lot of like set decoration in places in this movie that they don't spend much time at. Like the house was super detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of a desert, completely like covered in sand for the most part.
Right.
Like that, the amount of like just effort on this structure for it to not
Must be
really
enormous
used
for
very
it to be
long.
functional,
Yeah.
right? And for them to be like, next.
Talking about like not using a place very long. My favorite scene of the movie, hands down, was the impromptu musical at the whorehouse.
Oh, at the Chrome Town or
I
whatever?
thought
What?
you were gonna make me area.
Love it.
Why did that happen?
Love it. I love it because
Oh man, that was easily my favorite like
there-
actual scene of the movie.
If there are
Yeah.
any negative words spoken about liquid silver on this podcast,
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
not a thing. Every part of that town, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Was easily my favorite part of like the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
movie.
That was such a Blade Runner like area of like
Yeah.
you know what, you have to dress like this, you have to be like this,
And-
you have to dance.
You can tell that a lot of this was built strongly off of the comics because it like
Yeah.
flashes to moments of the comics with like not all of the characters that they're showing in this are like really on point with the way they are portrayed in the comics, but the madam
The
of
locations.
that place
Yeah.
was spot on the character in the comic book, and
Right.
they also like cut between moments of like showing her with her hair like like almost missing off of the top.
she said she
while
was gonna
was,
cut
like-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because she wasn't singing
Right,
as she
yeah.
wanted her to. And then like she's like picking at her, the main girl, Tank Girl, is like picking at Madam, and then finally like she starts really singing, and then everybody gets
And
into
then everybody's
it.
just like, it turns into a whole song and dance number
Right.
when like they could stop Tank Girl at any moment,
could-
basically.
Yeah, I mean, this
Anybody
is...
with a gun could have like
Yeah,
sniped her.
which is the whole thing of like, this is like a cartoon.
Yeah.
effectively.
And the
Yeah.
song is just about having sex. It's
Yeah.
like everybody likes having sex. Every animal likes to have sex. We love sex.
Yeah.
Like, this is.
And then corporate America
Crazy.
said, no more fun. Give us our water. Hey, isn't that
You
Tank
know,
Girl?
Speaking of that place too, the little girl, who was that guy that was like trying to play like schoolgirl with her?
Oh.
I feel like he's like a
I said it was
hair
Steven
metal
Tyler.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like that's what it looked like.
It
yeah.
was, yeah.
Like, I wonder if that is like some sort of notable like hair metal.
I wouldn't be
Or something,
surprised. I
But
would
then
not.
again, I don't know that anyone would jump.
That's got to
on
be like
that.
the bassist from Scorpion or something like that, you know? Like,
Maybe. I don't know.
no, even in '95 they wouldn't have been that old. I mean, like they were
No.
probably in their 30s and the 80s,
Yeah.
so like 40s when they're in 90s. There's no way. That guy looked like he was halfway dehydrated from the
Yeah.
dehydrator thing, and they pulled it out and let him keep the rest.
Well,
Like,
that was a play on
Yeah,
the
he was looking
kangaroos
rough.
for later.
Yeah.
Like I think that was supposed to be like a little Easter egg, not Easter egg, but like it's supposed to foreshadow a little bit whenever the kangaroos later on tell them that they were part of. you know,
oh yeah,
an
part of the
experiment.
society. Yeah, and they were like, yeah, they messed around with us.
Yeah.
I've done everything we can to stall the Rue talk,
Yeah,
but
I
we're there
think we have.
narratively. So, Price, you wanna talk about the Rues?
Iggy Pop?
Was it Ratface? Was it? Yeah, I
Probably.
mean, yeah,
Uh,
Iggy Pop is listed on here, and I mean,
Oh, that would have been Iggy
He-
Pop
he does
too.
seem-
yeah,
like that.
I think that might have been Iggy
Which is
Pop.
crazy because
Yeah.
like he looks older there than he looks older than now.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Makeup and design it makeup is
Sure.
a thing.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, true.
So I was watching this earlier today of this hour 40 movie.
Mhm.
It was like, I think I was like 45 minutes or like an hour in, and I messaged them. It was like, hey, like, when's like Ice-T coming in? Like,
Yeah.
because you
I
all
was
said like
wondering that too.
that's the whole point of the movie.
Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes later, I messaged them, was like, I hate you all. I found
Yeah.
them.
They
Because
found me.
Yes. So
that was bonkers.
Did you all catch the bit where they talk about how they're reincarnated versions of
Yeah.
people?
The
Yeah.
dog. One was a dog.
Yeah.
one was a dog. Yeah.
Yep.
So, really quick story that I think really encapsulates when are we gonna see Ice-T for me, right? So like back in the day before like maps was like map apps and stuff were like really really big. I remember I went over to a friend. This is like I don't know like high school years. I was going out to a friend's house out in E-Town. And I'd never been there, and he said, okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to go down this road, and you're going to keep driving. And you're going to drive for what feels like too long, and then just drive a little bit past that, and then the very next drive, like where the driveway at the end is, right? Because that's how we fucking did shit back in the day.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I was driving on that for like what felt like 30 minutes, and 33 minutes was the exact time where I was like, okay, surely I've gone too far. And sure enough, this house
And
is.
there it was.
Why I tell that story is because I felt like, when are we going to see Ice-T? And I kept watching this movie for so long. And then right whenever I was like, surely this has to be just like a one-off cameo, nothing that big of a deal. And here come the fucking Ruse. And it was just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then I didn't think they were going to staple themselves into the movie that big. And then...
Oh, they were.
They're
and then they
huge.
are the cast for the rest of the film.
They,
Yeah, I mean, it was like Snow White and the Seven Dwarves all of a sudden.
It's true.
If
Yeah.
Snow White actually did it with the
I,
dwarves.
Right.
I think these guys are more like the Mutant Ninja Turtles because
Oh,
they all
yeah.
have these characteristics of like different, one's the goofy one, one's supposed to be the smart one, like the jazz player,
Yeah.
or the sax player, whatever he played.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that poem.
Yes. And one's like Raphael because that's Ice-T.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, and then the whole song and dance number. There. Oh my god, guys!
I don't...
The kangaroos.
I felt like it was a fever dream. As soon as the Ruse came in, I'm like...
it's.
I'm not
gets
gonna remember half
weird.
of
It
it,
gets
yeah.
Is
real
that in the
weird.
comic?
Which, I mean,
Surely.
we've
It
jumped
was.
ahead there. I do also want to say I love the whole part with them like converting the tank into
Oh, like
like
what it
her
became.
style,
Right.
and then also like the jet
It
to,
coming
like,
out of the sand with
Mhm.
like crazy crap all over.
Well, that
it.
was like all with the comic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
like that
pretty
was just like a
exclusively
whole
with it.
smash cut of like comic animation.
It's a wonder it didn't say pussy wagon on the side.
I know. Honestly, it could have, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I'd be like, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Oh man.
Tank Girl fucks everybody.
Nathan, would you like to tell me what you told me earlier about the sexualization in this movie?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I was just saying, like, I figured as this movie went along, like, one of the things that you guys would probably most harp on is just how incredibly sexualized this movie is the whole time.
I didn't notice.
No, you didn't.
We were just talking about the sex song.
In the silver,
Liquid Silver.
in Liquid Silver, she had condoms hanging off of her outfit.
I actually don't think I did notice that.
Condoms just dangling.
I didn't know
on
they
the
were
side of
condoms. I thought they were just like ribbon.
No,
Like-
those were condoms.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good. That's just good.
Well,
set design.
there was like a
Yeah.
dick pic at one point sent, like whenever the kangaroos sent her to like
Yeah,
take pictures
the
of the
crotch pic,
arsenals.
yeah.
A crotch pic.
I couldn't
like-
get over the dressing room like naked people in the walls. It
Yeah.
felt very Ex Machina-y.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah,
I was
the
like,
fact that they were, I guess, just paid to like
stand
hold
there. Yeah.
people's clothes for them.
Right. I was like,
While being naked and exposed for the most part, and
Yeah.
like only really blocked in the parts where it wouldn't matter.
Right. Yeah. They're just weird designs that I don't hate, but I think that a lot of like the sexualization comes with like a sense of the humor of it and the character though, which makes a lot of sense for me because I enjoy sexualization probably more than most, but I also don't like gratuitous sexualization for no reason. And this character is built in to be like every person that there's any sort of positive like relationship with, there's like a sexual attraction to, other than the kids. But because again, early on she like meets the mechanic nerdy girl and she just like
kisses her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kisses her with all the like what's the
Goop
lousing
on
they
her.
use?
The flower.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The,
yeah.
like the lousing powder and stuff like that. And then later it reminded me of what's the oh god, I'll think of that movie here in a minute. I think it's Guns Akimbo. But where she was in the freezer and then she was like, when I'm like this, it's really hard to touch myself.
Yeah.
And I thought about whatever that movie with not Margot Robbie where she gets her fingers blown off.
Yeah, it's Guns Akimbo.
It is Guns Akimbo,
Yeah,
right?
it was
And she
like
was
her
just like, that's gonna make my Tuesdays wildly more boring.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same humor,
Same
but
character,
yeah,
kinda, yeah, in a
effectively,
way, yeah.
very close to it, right?
More angry.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
much more. But all that had like a really, really fun part to it. So I mean, all in all, I think it all plays very well. Although I don't like to think about the ruse sexually whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
If I could not think about the ruse in general, actually, that would be great.
But they show that they are very sexually motivated.
Yeah,
No,
they're there.
whenever that dance started happening.
The dance,
Well,
with the prayer. That's
yeah,
actually the
the
prayer.
prayer.
One of them like grabs the nerdy girl and it's like, oh no, it's fine, I have condoms.
Yeah.
That was as bad as that
Consent was
scene
not
in
on the table.
The Frighteners, whenever he's like, I love them when they lay still.
Oh
Like-
yeah,
like,
with the
that's the same level for me. You remember that?
Yeah,
No.
it's the old sheriff ghost, and he goes into the
coffin.
sarcophagus at the museum when that fight all happening. Yeah,
And he utters the words, "I love them more when they lay still." And I remember that line from that movie about as bad as anything else. But that
Yeah.
scene when the kangaroo takes the nerdy girl and he's like, "Don't worry, I have condoms."
It
And
just
he's
starts to dry on her.
and it's like an upbeat dance number.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they're
it
all
is.
like running around and clapping.
And Tank Girl's just grinding on the other kangaroos.
Yeah.
What
On the one
earth?
that was the dog.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one that she liked.
doofus.
Booga.
Yeah.
Booga.
Yeah.
Booga.
Boy, if she didn't have a dog in her before. So,
Oh my god.
uh,
Who was everyone's favorite kangaroo?
Oh, the sax guy.
Me too.
Yeah,
100%.
the sax
When
guy.
at the end, when he winds up dying.
Dying.
And he gives his last burst like, "I'll see you in the sky." And he goes, "Ah," and then it plays the little sax riff. What has his eyes like closed when he dies? That killed me.
That was supposed to be a tearjerker for this.
Yeah.
yeah. Definitely wasn't. I half expected him to be fake dying the rest of the movie. Like,
I expected him to come back with a bionic arm that twists and
Yeah.
has blades all over it too.
anyways, so.
And also the Ice-T song that plays during the kangaroo
Yes, I looked it up and
section.
it's actually him.
Yeah.
I believe
Oh,
he
yeah.
would make a whole song for this
That
movie.
was
It only
terrible.
played about 15 seconds of it too, so
Be-
you know he didn't have as much
because
pull in this movie.
because the rest of the soundtrack is like, in my opinion, generic punk, where it's just like, and then Ice-T comes in with the song. Like, the only reason that this song is in here is because he is
Ice-T's.
in the
Oh
suit.
yeah,
right
Yeah.
now.
yeah.
100%.
Like that was very much on purpose.
Written
I'm sure.
in.
Like they wanted to. Like I don't think it was that he wanted it. I think they wanted that.
Yeah.
Sure. They said, you know what, you're going to scratch our back? How about we scratch yours? We'll
There-
pay you some money. extra for this song that you're gonna make for us.
There's no way the movie making of this movie wasn't just people having a fucking blast though. You know, like
Who had more fun, them or Zardos?
no Zardos.
Zardos is
wow.
probably the most fun anyone's
ever
had making a
ever had
movie.
fun making a movie
I mean, if you
Yeah.
can raise the population of a city just by making
by
a movie,
33% of Sean Connery. Yeah, then
Yeah.
you're not having more fun. And we can't even recreate that because our drugs are all fentanyled out now. So like now, if we did, we would just die. You know.
Yeah.
Talk about missing a window. Born in the wrong era.
Yeah.
So and not in the right movie verse either. But anyways,
By the way, this year was based in 2033. I don't know if you guys remember that commentary. at the
9
very
years
No,
from
beginning.
now.
I didn't catch that.
It was
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which
I could see us getting there.
Yeah.
I can't.
is this close.
Every time I see like
we'll be there.
apocalypses
ready.
within a 10-year window, I'm just like, yeah, that's doable.
I've
Yeah.
been saving water ever since.
I'm sure. I'm just saving you guys for the water. That's the trick. Hey, what's for dinner, Price Water?
Oh dang! I really wanted Nathan water tonight.
Yeah, hate that for us. Anyway, so then she beats the boss. The end. I mean, that's more or less like the movie.
Yeah.
The ending
Yeah.
is not particularly satisfying, other than and then the ending happens. The end, right? Like, so.
Yeah, it's like they have their fight.
Mhm.
The boss reveals that he's got a hologram head,
Hologram
which is
head.
kind of like a neat little trick. She tries to shoot him with a tank full of like beer cans.
Yeah.
And like this happens for a while. He keeps deflecting those hands.
Oh,
She's
it's like
pow. And then he goes pow. And then she goes
6 different
pow.
cans.
Like, come on. Obviously it's not working. Let's move it on.
It does.
Statistically, she's gonna land a shot.
Right.
Eventually.
She had
However,
to get through like the whole 12 pack.
yeah,
Wow.
there's something to be said about the force of that tank for that man. And I get it, that thing is strong, but like for him to be so
That's
fast.
reflexes at that point. It's
I
not even
know.
strength.
I'm like, I don't like. Listen, I've seen those little the baseball throwing machines go too fast for me. So like a tank should be like not. And frankly, the force should be obliterating it. But that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there.
To like do like more of a cap on this discussion, I think our general tone is that we like seem to like really love this movie and we're laughing along with it. But for me, at the end of the day, it's like I don't have too much like negative to say about the movie because it's like
Yeah.
the movie knows what it is. It's wearing it on its sleeve. But at the same time, it's still much of nothing for me, I guess. I'm like the whole time I'm thinking, this is crazy. This is wild.
Mhm.
And I'm enjoying my experience with it, but it's not something I'm gonna like or recommend or buy or something like that. It's like really good candy or something where it's like I
Wow,
ingest
hold
it
on. I don't know where you're
and that's about it. I do have like one pretty big negative for me personally, and I think the editing on this movie is terrible. And I know that's like the most up your own butt critic kind of thing to say is the editing, but there are moments where it smash cuts to another scene and like our heroes in somewhere else. Like,
Oh, she's in a
how did
totally
we
different
wind, How did
location.
we
Yeah.
wind up here? And it's never explained. It's just you kind of move along.
The
with it.
narrative
that's the-
editing is a little rocky.
That's the comic
yeah.
book. So they use those comic book transitions
To
to
just kinda,
basically
like,
tell you,
sell the
hey,
film.
guess where she's at now? It's Liquid Death or
Yeah.
Liquid Silver. Now, you'll never guess where she is now.
What
and
a-
the layer.
What a nice
Like-
trick it must be to have a movie just being wherever you want it to be without having to show the difficult, boring parts of transition, right? Like, and they're like, I've got an idea.
Like the later seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they were just like, hey, what if she was just in Westeros? Okay. And then there she was, you know, like. So I think that there's like, again, I think there's a plot device thing there when you're doing the movie. Just like, okay, we have all the big parts. This is the easiest part about most stories. Like, here's all the points. Here's the plot points.
Uh-huh.
How do we get in between these things? And it's just like, really great movies will make you interested even in the in between the plot points. This movie was like, what if we just had the points and then papered over some comic book scenes on it, and then we're there, which I don't hate. You know,
Just like flip through a comic book
Yeah.
in between the scenes.
I think
in front of the
I think
camera.
a handful of like early '90s comic book movies did the same thing though. Like
Yeah, this was
Spawn
typical of
comes
the
to mind
era.
as I think doing the
Mhm.
same exact
Yeah.
thing. Like not
Which
in the same
I don't
aesthetic.
hate it because I really thought all the comic book like smash cuts
No, yeah,
and
I
all
thought it
the
was
like
fun, yeah.
things where they had it like animated too. Like I think it all looked great.
That always goes back to execution for me, right?
And
It's like
it really kept your focus on the vibe of the whole thing. I
They
feel
kept
like.
your heartbeat up the entire movie.
yep, they're
They
like
tried to keep other things up too.
yeah, but it wasn't
Like the kangaroos.
It wasn't full Mad Max though, where the tempo of everything was also
Yeah.
up here. Like this was a comfortable tempo. I could find with being at like 7 for like the whole movie because the movie's like movie's tense as the ruse, and I'm like, turn it down, go back. We've upgraded too
I
far.
hated seeing their fucking faces.
Their faces is just
Their
so-
faces were easily the worst part of this whole, and they owned it.
They
Yeah,
went
they
for
did.
it and it worked.
And
Like,
they
the
zoomed-
costumes were what
yeah, I
they
mean,
wanted.
they committed heavy into
Yeah.
the aesthetic of these things.
There was a decision made, but with a conviction above all else.
and
We
it's
will
not
complete it.
even like it's not even that fitting to like the comic version because
Yeah.
you like they show you the comic version
Mhm.
a lot of moments too, and they look a lot more like just a normal kangaroo. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this aesthetic choice was very
A
different.
choice.
Yeah, like they went for this specifically.
Their makeup person said, "Trust me, guys," and then they said,
if you've
"You got
never
it."
trusted me before, I need you to do it now.
Yeah, and then they got the rules. So, but anyways, let's get to the shape of this movie. Fat, thin, perfectly fit. We know it. We love it. Nathan.
I think it's pretty fit. I mean, maybe a little thin. I mean, I could do a little more time with this movie.
This movie wasn't 2.5 hours, which
This,
is pretty
uh,
thin for you. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw another 20 minutes in here, and I'd enjoy it.
I'm pretty thankful there's not a director's cut of it because I may have found mine in less than normal means
Yeah.
and less
Yeah.
than streaming means. And every time I've ever done that, especially with your films, I've always ended up with a 50-hour version long with director commentary with it.
Sounds like a Dylan problem.
Yeah, so thankfully it was just a regular cut. But anyway, Mason.
I'm gonna say it's pretty fit. For what it set out to accomplish, yeah, definitely it hit all of those marks that Dylan was talking about. The plot lines, boom, 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 boom. Basically 5 locations, maybe. I don't know. I don't think I would have added anything to it. I think that if anything, you could trim out the kangaroos and give me more of the earlier comic strip stuff because I did enjoy her down in the mines and doing that kind of stuff. All
Yeah.
of her little snarky one-off lines that like should have gotten her blown off in the head.
Yeah, they should have
Oh.
absolutely
But
killed
they
her.
Yeah.
kept her around.
Also,
her-
Well, when you're a woman in the apocalypse, guys.
the guard that was kicking the buckets down at her, did you think he would be more significant given
Yeah.
how incredibly strange his facial hair was?
Yeah.
Yeah, she like did a snarky comment to him. He kicked a bucket at her, and she's like, and you're like, okay, well that's probably about it. He kicks another one at her, and you're
And
like,
another one.
okay, whatever. And then he just does another one. It's like, all right, okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty fit. I mean it's yep.
Yeah, this movie's fit. I'm with Nathan on it's on the leaner side of it but for me it's I would cut and then add immediately. Like there's stuff I want to add and I know exactly where I cut it. It's right around rule fucking clock.
Rule o'clock.
Right around iced tea time. It's time to go ahead and I'm gonna get up out of here. But if I could cut that out, there's definitely some parts I would have put more energy into. To your point, like the house and like that crew would have been interesting to have a little bit more investment on. Okay, we've known them for 6 minutes. Obliterate them.
Yeah,
And then-
almost all of the children too. Like,
Yeah, the prison stuff was fine. I mean, Liquid Chrome, you could have left that movie there for half the movie. I'd been fine with that because I think
that was the coolest world.
yeah, that part
like,
was sick.
It looked like a nice mall, like
Right.
a really really nice.
Yeah.
Full of
Which
sex.
they
Yes.
like allude to a lot of the post-apocalyptic stuff
Mm.
and don't really like dig into it much. Like the whole thing where it's like the cliff that they're about to drive off, and then like you see down in the cliff, it's skyscrapers. Like
Yeah.
they're up on some kind of big sand dune, and below them are
missed that.
skyscrapers.
Oh, I didn't
It
see
sounds
that.
like a mirage. You know, like
Right.
back in the day on any of
Yeah.
those movies, you would see, you know, a nice city.
Yeah.
Well, the cut to the cliffside too, it like literally shows you a skyscraper wall next to like the sand that she's like the vehicle.
That visual
comes
gives me like
tumbling off of.
Idiocracy vibes whenever
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
looking at that one.
Yeah.
But, yeah, anyways.
With the big band-aids
this-
on the side of the building.
Yeah, this movie's fit only in that there's more things I want out of it, which would normally go thin, but then we got the ruse, so it all balances out in the end.
I think this movie's very thin. I think this movie is high octane all the time. But again, I think you made a good point about Mad Max. Like, it's not trying to keep you sweaty the whole time.
Yeah,
It's continually
I think
keeping.
it was trying to keep you a little sweaty at certain times.
Yeah, it wanted you hot and bothered, but not necessarily sweaty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's keeping the foot on the gas most of the time, not speeding totally, but still keeping you on the edge of your seat. And sometimes, like Dylan was saying, those in between moments are sometimes really good, where you're getting character development or good conversations or good dialogue. And this movie doesn't have that.
No.
It is just punching, fighting, shooting, sex with kangaroos. It's wild. And at the end of the
Prayers
movie,
with kangaroos.
at the end of the movie, you kind of like blink your eyes and look around like, what just happened to me? And that is this movie, which is not a bad thing. It's a very unique experience. I can flat out say I have never had an experience with a movie like I had with this one,
and the thing
which is only good for this movie, which is only good because it's very unique.
Right.
And if you take the kangaroos out of the equation, there's something that could be said about the kangaroos, because if you were to take them out of the
Yeah.
equation, it's just like a lot of other movies that Nathan kind of pertains to. It's just
Yeah.
like the post-apocalyptic, the dystopian.
It checks his
the
boxes for
punk,
sure. It's
the this,
older.
the man going against the man,
Yeah.
and like. But then you add this massive piece of the cheesecake in,
Yeah.
and like Price just said, you're left scratching your head at the end, and you're like, huh.
So this kangaroo used to be a dog.
Yeah.
So, booga.
You know what it is for me though with the ruse? It's not just the disturbing faces or things like that. It's the movie's choice to like make them the stable thing. Because I think to your point, made me thinking whenever we're talking about the pacing of this film, it's all just like stop thinking more, stop thinking as much, keep walking. You're on the journey. You keep on walking, and I'm like okay, but I'm kind of here for that, right? That pace is nice. And then they're like, anyways, we're at the trash room, and this is where the ruse are. And if the ruse were just like a 2 or 3 minute one off.
Like the liquid
Yes, like
chrome or whatever.
much less. Like
Say
even
less.
just a couple of minutes, if it's just the ruse, I'd be like, "What a fucking trip this is!" Wait, is that the ruse? And they'd be like, "Keep walking," and I'd be like, oh, "Okay," like if they could have done that with my movie experience, then I'd be like,
you were getting pushed down the hallway, and that door
Yes.
was just open.
and then they're like, "Hey, oh, there's the boss." I'm like, "Okay, cool. All right, we killed the boss." Movie credits or roll credits. So I'm like, "Oh."
Then she's having sex with the kangaroos.
Yeah.
And then they just shove
Yeah.
you into the room and,
And then
close the door.
Right, and then if they had just pushed me past the ruse and I had just been like, wait a minute, is that a dog? If I had just had that moment, I would have been like, wow, this movie's a fucking ride in a really good way. The problem is 2/3 of the movie is that. Okay, go on through, and then they're like, go ahead and take a break here, we're pretty tired. And then was the ruse. So...
And can I just say, too, that the kangaroos, outside of them having a couple big jump scenes,
yeah.
I would not have been able to tell you that they were kangaroos.
No.
Because
Yeah.
to me, their faces, I mean, I don't know what a
Their
kangaroo
faces
really
look
looks like. I mean, I've seen videos.
Nothing like that. Nothing like that.
These things could have been like wallabies. They could have been dogs.
Wallaby.
Nathan-
They could have been, honestly, anything that you could find in like a rainforest or
Yeah.
like
A
a
rainforest
honest to God
cafe.
anywhere.
This could-
just like an animal, mammal.
Yeah.
Do you
a
want to see
mammal.
what a Rocco's Modern Life in 95 would have looked like?
That's what
and
this
it's
is.
that, yeah. So,
But luckily they did have the jumping scenes, and I think they did show their big ass tails in multiple
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
they vote with their tails too. So
Yeah.
you see it. They have a big tail.
Yeah. Nathan, I know you're like 0 out of 100 for my editing requests in these, but if you really could just put, I feel like we've talked about the ruse so much, but without the visual aid and people who haven't watched this, can we put in a clip, or not even a clip, just like a picture of the Rue face somewhere in the video from
He'll
Rue,
do it on this one.
from Rue timestamp on, just so we have like people who are like, oh no, that makes sense,
That's, I understand.
I want to I want to like go into the question or whatever after this quote from an Ice-T interview.
Okay.
So in 2017, he did an interview on Howard Stern, and I will read you what they wrote here. My first real check was Tank Girl with Lori Petty playing a fucking kangaroo. He said, adding that they paid him $1 million to play the part. He told Howard he was on the set of Johnny Mnemonic with Keanu Reeves when he got an offer for the role. When they sent him the details, however, he was underwhelmed. They sent me a picture of a kangaroo, and I'm like, what the fuck? Am I not like with Keanu Reeves? What the fuck? Are we going backwards? Do I owe money? What's happening? He said. Then they go, they're going to pay you $1 million. He continued. I started hopping around the room like the fucking kangaroo.
I can be bought. Is basically what I said.
$1 million. Oh, to be fair, $1 million in the 90s is like a real million.
Oh, that's so much.
yeah. That's not even what it is.
I thought that was so funny when I found it.
Like, am I not with Keanu Reeves right now? Am I
Yeah.
going backwards? Do
He's
I
like,
owe money?
this guy did Speed, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. The Matrix.
And
came
he's
out
off of Bill
a
and
couple years
Ted's Hot
after
Run.
that.
Yeah, I know. He goes on to do Matrix at that point, right?
Does anybody have a question?
I do not.
Mine was the kangaroos. Which one was your favorite?
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. We all
Yeah,
agreed that it was the
yeah.
jazz one.
That's $2 million now.
Yep.
All right, Nathan, there
Wow,
you go.
$2 to one.
Well, never mind. I guess we have to do that
Man,
afterwards.
I like this. You may also like section
Predators.
because yeah, I'm all over all them too.
Quit giving them ideas.
That's going on the wheel.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've recently
I
been
know.
rewatching the Predator movies.
They're all
Yeah.
pretty
They
good.
might go on the list.
The,
I like
the
'em.
Prey should go on the
Oh,
list, if
yeah.
anything. But anyways, scores.
First.
Price from top.
Man, like I said just a second ago in the Fat Thin section, this is a very unique movie, and I think it really gets points for that. Because I've never felt like I did during this movie. I wasn't completely horrified, where it was kind of going for just horrifying you, because there is still something going on in this movie. It's fun. It has a whole lot of style. I think the comic book intersections really help with that. I'm a sucker for animation, and I loved at the end when they did a whole animated section for like a minute or two.
Yeah.
That was really cool. The editing definitely brought it down, because there were times when I was very confused on where I was or what was going on. But that's the thing about this movie. It's pushing you along, saying, don't think about it. Just keep going. Just keep engaging with the world and just being a part of it and laughing with it. Because the movie knows what it is, and it wants you to laugh along with it. It's not long. It doesn't take your time. And I still enjoy it. It's not going to be in the upper echelon of movies, I think. But it's still a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to give this movie a 7.
Oh
I
my
surprisingly
God.
enjoyed it quite a bit. It is, I don't know.
This one hit the
It's
field
something that's you would not expect at all. And for that, I think it gets a lot of points.
Wow.
Well, what were you expecting?
Not
Just wait.
Not necessarily worse, but this movie to me is a definitive 6.5. Like, this is one of these movies that, and I'm not going to say I hated my time with it. This is just, by a lot of stretches, a bad movie that I had a lot of fun with. And it's pretty close to being a 7. This is right around, remind you, Rain of Fire ended up getting pushed to a 7 purely on its fun factor alone. But that, by all stretches, means it's a bad movie that's fucking awesome.
But Rain of
Right.
Fire is so boring. If
No,
you think about it, there are
That-
large stretches of that movie.
I agree. It's
that
got
are
it's
so
got a lot
boring.
of moments that are really fucking good,
Yeah.
but then it's got a lot of time spent.
But in
Rain
here,
of Fire,
my
the
brain
first
is forgetting
half.
those boring parts, and all it sees is
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey
well,
fucking
that's
slaying the
how
dragons.
I think about it. Too.
Yeah, it's all highlight reel on my brain,
Yeah.
right? And Tank Girl with the first rewatch, could I make an argument for it being a 7? Maybe. And for one quote in specific that I hadn't got a chance to bring up yet, but it's
Oh,
my
please
favorite
do.
quote of the whole fucking film. She's in the bathroom with the nerdy girl or whatever, and I don't remember what the context was, but Tank Girl says, and I quote, "You gotta think about it like it's your first time you get laid. You just gotta say, 'Daddy, are you sure this is right?'" And the delivery of that line is so fucking good. You know what? Fuck it. Put it up to 7. That line,
Yeah.
it's worth it. That line, and so much of little one-off little
Just
sexuality
all
bangers.
of Tank Girl's lines are really
Annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's
But
annoyingly
it's
good,
funny.
but it has. And again, Harley Quinn is one of my favorite characters in comic world history. With
Mm-hmm.
that one, live action and animated, specifically animated. But to know that this is definitely a rooted character in that character's making, and seeing how much fun this character was with it, it's kind of hard not to be on the ride with Tank Girl with it. So, a lot of fun, a lot of interesting world building. The pace is fun, but God, every time I think about the world or the ruse, I'm just like, go back to 6.5, go back to 6.5, Dylan, and then I think there's better moments than it, and they save it right towards the end. So for the first 2/3, it's a 7 easy. Anyways,
Do they get brighter?
it does.
Yeah, one of the lights. I don't know what
Just keeps
what's
coming
going
on.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be great.
It's
in
the
the
spotlight.
footage.
It's for me.
It's washing out these harsh edges.
Yeah.
Unlike the two to my left, I'm going to bring this movie down quite a bit. I don't think that this movie was terrible, and I do appreciate the tempo that it had before the kangaroos.
This was your tempo?
That was my tempo.
Yeah.
That's my tempo. I cannot forgive that final, 33-ish%.
Fair.
And I didn't like the final sequence with the fighting. I think that it was very, not that great choreographed. I think that it was just a silly, the hero meets the boss and she does cartwheels around. How do I kill this thing with a holographic head? The whole almost second half of this movie was silly for me. But also to point out too, I mentioned in the chat that this was like Sears' version of Gwen Stefani and John Travolta.
Mm-hmm.
All of these people just seem like wannabe better actors or artists. I think that this movie is a 5.5.
Oh.
Solely based on
That's
the fact
low.
that I didn't like the one-liners. I didn't think that she was all that clever.
That
but I
is the
understand.
movie.
Yeah.
I know.
That's a lot of movie if you're not on it with it.
I liked her little nerdy friend. I thought that she was actually kind of cool. She was like the mechanic.
She's much more your
She was the
speed.
engineer. She actually got the things going to where they needed to go.
Marion, when I think about it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay, that
But
tracks.
I
Yeah.
think that, like, I don't know. This movie, it didn't start off in the greatest area, and then you just brought the kangaroos in, and man, I did not like it.
Yeah.
that final ending, it was just, oh god, it was
Yeah.
terrible.
That
If
she
anything-
wound up with Booga.
Booga, and then the other one wound up with the other one, right?
The
I don't-
tacky kangaroo.
Yeah. that
Yeah.
sounds
I didn't
right.
think that they like showed that.
Nah,
There was
that-
some chemistry there.
Oh, there was
Yeah.
chemistry, but it didn't
he
show that.
created like an earpiece specifically for her. He handed it to her and he was like, I made this one especially for you.
Yeah, you can tell it's just that little nods that they're like, if we had more movie,
These kangaroos be
It-
fucking.
yeah.
Like that's really what this movie wanted.
it's cool.
to be
They
about.
brought condoms.
Yeah, they
They
did.
brought condoms.
They told you.
They practiced safe sex.
5.5 without. That's because of the lack of consent. Mason
Yeah.
does care.
Yeah.
I prefer to read that as 55. Like you were just so high on the film.
so
blew the rhythm.
insanely loving of this
really
movie.
gonna skew our averages.
Yeah.
Nathan has a 26 movie.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is entertaining. Like I said, I've seen it a couple of times. It's very all over the place. Like, there's definitely, like, stuff that I think is hitting real high, and then there's stuff that's just really stupid. So it's a little chaotic. I think I'm probably going to land at, like, a 7 with the rest of you all on
Alright.
it.
Lucky sevens.
I would almost want to go a little higher, but I think for me, there's like a little just too much sexualization stuff going on.
You lost my
Like,
game, buddy.
I did not vibe with how horny the kangaroos were.
Oh, I could have done without
That
that.
was too
Yeah.
much.
It was
like-
straight.
like-
yeah.
That part, I was like, they're gonna give me shit about this because this is fucking
Well,
weird.
that was
I don't
probably
think
my
we have.
favorite part was the prayer because the girls
Yeah.
were like, "What? It's prayer time?" And then it's literally just this like
Yeah,
spinning
they-
around
uh-huh.
clamping.
Like they've made up
Yeah.
their own religion.
Yes.
And then, we didn't even talk about the fact that their prophet or whatever was mailed to him in the box,
Yeah.
and then they all start going, "Rah!"
Wasn't his name Johnny Prophet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a name that was very well thought through.
Yeah.
That was
so good.
last days of editing. Shit, we got to give him a name.
Johnny Prophet.
Johnny Prophet.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, that
Send
tracks. Yeah, done. How did this movie do critically though?
Well, let's see. We got a
Oof.
we got a critic score of 45%,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audiences.
62.
Yeah, audiences.
Looks like Mason's got his finger on the pulse
Yeah,
when it
he
comes to
does.
the
He's
critics.
riding down the middle there.
I wanted to like this movie. I wanted to.
Well,
Well, Nathan didn't change his
here.
thing, but
So
whatever.
for those.
It's literally going to be an arrow.
Well,
Yeah,
it might not.
It has.
There's
to be an
still
arrow.
a chance.
No, I'm saying his would be an arrow.
Oh yeah, his will be an
yeah,
arrow.
We're not
Which
even
would
gonna.
go in any direction. so
You know
that's
what?
fine.
Let's just save us a spin here. We know where this is going. There's one movie left on the wheel, and
TV show.
Dylan, I swear to you. Oh, it passed to purple. That's good.
Okay, it did. It's an arrow.
Arrow.
Yellow is not a creative color, said Price Bell. What is it, Price Bell?
Well, what do you all think it is?
I'm gonna say it is the mini series on YouTube.
Sin City.
Wait, this is a TV series?
Yep, TV show.
Oh.
Oh, it's definitely Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
Ugh.
That's exactly what it is.
I'm
but
sure
it's
it is.
but it's not the YouTube shorts. There's actually a TV show.
Shut up, is
Yeah.
it?
That's what this is.
Okay.
What is this?
You were
on?
too on the
How
nose
are
with
we-
that.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
are we going to watch this?
Right.
Well, we'll see. I'll help you out. Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, I don't like that.
Papa Price has got you. Yeah, they made
I'm
one
kind of scared.
about a year or two ago.
Uh-huh.
Those were creepy.
So,
See what's in store for you.
Yeah.
all right. Well, watch out, spooky boys. We're back. So make sure to tune in next week for.
Don't hug me. I'm scared.
Okay.
Price, this is gonna be either my favorite pick that you've ever had, or my most just. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like the
It
content. we're
doesn't
doing-
feel like you, man. It just doesn't feel like a normal you kind of pick.
All right.
Well, that's where we're at.
You know what? You go in 12 seasons or whatever we're on now. You know, you start exploring
Start-
out.
Yeah.
So-
Start branching.
if you like the content we're doing, always let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for, I mean, frankly, just continuing to do this for this long. You see us aging. Live.
Tell
Effectively.
us what you thought about the kangaroos that you saw in a little.
Yeah, there should be a little, like, probably over all of our faces would be, like, the ideal
A
way.
kangaroo filter.
Can I be the jazz one?
Oh, God, yeah.
R.I.P.
I definitely want to be Booga.
That's not fair. Those are the
You
only
got
good ones. Anyways.
You could be Ice-T.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Are you traumatized by The Ruse? Did this movie deserve less of a score? Probably. But, anyways, guys. Oh, was our lighting great? We're keeping...
Could you tell
I
it
mean,
was
it
different?
flickered a little bit, but we are putting a little bit extra effort. We do pay attention to the comments. I told you we would. Anyway, guys, until next time, make sure to hit the bell so you know when the next...
You got it?
I couldn't... it was over the pillow. I wasn't
Bouncy.
sure. Yeah. So you know when the next video comes on. So, yeah, until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Go
Bye.
on home.
That
Go-
was, that was,
go and get-
that was
get-
a fun
get
little
you.
review.